Hello, I am May Jurilla. I am a professor of literature and book history from the University of the Philippines in Diliman. This is a lecture on contemporary British literature, specifically on the poem Prologue by Patience Agbabi. This will be presented in three parts, this one being the first, wherein we shall examine the poem to understand its sense and style. In the second part, we shall explore the context and connections of the poem to further comprehend and perhaps better appreciate its meaning and design. In the third and final part, we shall consider literary issues that the poem raises: orality and performance, adaptation and intertextuality, and what implications these bear on our study and experience of literature in general. So, let's begin by getting to know something about the author. Patience Agbabi is a British poet and performer. She is a great advocate of what she calls the word on the page and the word on the stage, or the written word and the spoken word, and the interaction between them. She has authored 4 books of poems, and she has performed her poetry live all over the world. She has lectured in creative writing in several universities in the UK. In 2017, she was elected as a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. More recently, this year 2020, she released her first novel, The Infinite, a time travel adventure for children. The work of hers that we shall study here is Prologue. It is from the book Telling Tales, a collection of poems which was published in 2014. Prologue is the prologue of the book. It is the introduction. There is a story in Telling Tales that connects together all the poems in it. Its scenario is a poetry slam, a spoken word contest, which is something like a rap battle or our own balagtasan. But a poetry slam does not involve a debate, as do rap battles or balagtasan events. In a poetry slam, participants recite their poems, and typically the audience decides on whose work is best. In Telling Tales, there are 24 entries in the contest, presented by 25 characters. There's a pair among them. They are not all professional poets. They have various occupations and come from different backgrounds in terms of age, class, and race. So we have a diverse group of people who happen to do spoken word. They are having a poetry slam, and this takes place inside a Route Master bus, the iconic London Red bus. They are traveling from London to Canterbury. Some details might sound familiar already. Well, we'll get to that later. First, let's watch Patience Agbabi perform Prologue from Telling Tales.
So, Prologue. When my April showers me with kisses, I could make her my missus or my mistress, but I'm happily hitched. Sorry, home girls, said my vows to the sound of the bow bells. Yet her breath is as fresh as the west wind. When I breathe her, I'm holding my chest in. She's my music, my muse, she inspires me. Though my mind's overtaxed, April fires me. How she pierces my heart to the fond root, till I bleed sweet cherry blossom en route to our bliss trip. This day she goes off me. April loves me not, April loves me. With the passion, dear doctor, I'm word sick, and I got the itch like I'm allergic. But it could be my shirt's on the cheap side. Serenade overnight with my peeps wide. Nothing like her, liqueur, an elixir. Overproof that she serves as my sick cure. She's as strong as a ram, she is Aries. See my jaw-dropping jeans, she could wear these. See my jaw-dropping neat Anglo-Saxon. I got ink in my veins more than Caxton. And it flows hand to mouth, here's a mouth feast. Verbal feats from the streets of the southeast. But my April, she blooms every shire's end. Fit or vinch, rich or skint, she inspires them. From the grime to the clean-cut iambic. Rime royale, rant or rap, get your slam kick. On this route, master bus gets cerebral. Tabard Inn to Canterbury Cathedral. Poet pilgrims competing for free picks. Chaucer tales track by track, here's the remix. From below the belt base to the top notch. I won't stop all the clocks with a stopwatch. If the rhymes overrun, run offensive. Or run clean out a stream, they're authentic. Cause we're keeping it real, reminisce this. Chaucer's tales were an unfinished business. May the best poet lose, as the saying goes. May the best poet muse be mainstaying those on the stage as they elevate their subject. Me and April, we're the rhyming couplet. I'm the host for tonight, Harry Bailey. If I'm tongue-tied, April will bail me, because my tongue's coming out of its chrysalis when my April shows me what a kiss is.
Part of me feels like we could end this here already because, wow, that was pretty cool. But let's look at the poem more closely. This is the published version of the poem, the one that appears in the book. It differs slightly from the performance version, the one we just saw and heard. I think the differences have to do with the modes of transmission, with the one version meant for an audience to hear, and the other, this one, meant for the audience to see, to read. So we have two versions, but they are of one and the same poem, really. The differences do raise interesting points on orality, on performance, and we'll look into that later. Now, I will not read this version out loud. We just saw and heard Patience Agbabi's performance, so who could ever follow that? But I'm showing you the text for you to read on your own, to take it all in. You might want to pause here to do that. Note that there's no stanza break in the poem. It runs as one big unit. I think this structure gives the piece some of its energy and its groove. The rhythm is sustained throughout the poem because there are no breaks between sets of lines. For a dramatic pause, say, or a big breath, the lines just come tumbling one after another from start to finish. So let's see what's going on here. I want to start in the end with Harry Bailey, who is the speaker of the poem. He identifies himself as the host for the night and as the MC, the master of ceremonies. As I mentioned earlier, the main scenario of Telling Tales is a poetry slam happening in a bus. So here in Prologue, we find Harry Bailey setting things in motion, opening the contest. Now, there's another character here, April, and there seems to be something going on between her and Harry. Let's go to the beginning of the poem to figure this out. April might be Harry's girlfriend or love interest, but we know early on from Harry himself that he is married, happily hitched. That he said his vows to the sound of the Bow Bells, a reference to the church bells of St. Mary Le Bow, which is located in the city of London. So who is this April who showers him with kisses, who loves him not, then loves him? Consider how else he describes her. Her breath is as fresh as the west wind. She is a liqueur, an elixir. She's as strong as a ram. She is Aries. She blooms every shire's end. You might find that April is the month personified here in this poem. In the astrological calendar, the period of Aries is from around March 20 to April 21. This would be springtime in England. The significance of this is likely lost on us Filipino readers who do not know the four seasons. We just have dry and wet, and the month of April for us is very dry and very hot, not particularly pleasant. In England, however, and other places where they do experience the four seasons, spring is glorious, a time of rebirth and rejuvenation, when the earth wakes up from the cold and dreariness of winter, when plants grow again and flowers bloom. So April, or spring, fires up Harry. She inspires him to be poetic. He is intoxicated by the season or so infected by it that he is word sick. And he's got the itch like he's allergic. But then by his own reckoning, that itch might be just because of his cheap t-shirt. There's a pun here. Cheapside, one word capital C, is a street in London where the church of St. Mary Le Bow is. So, nevertheless, Harry is indeed inspired by April. He says he's got the ink in his veins more than Caxton. That's William Caxton, who in 1476 established the first printing press in England. And it's not only Harry who is affected by the powers of April. She inspires anyone or everyone, it seems, fit or fit, rich or skint. These are British slang words: fit meaning attractive, sexy, and vint, which means old, but here signifying the contrary to fit. Skint, you can figure out from the context, opposite to rich. April, furthermore, elicits all kinds of poetic forms from those she inspires, from the grime to the clean-cut iambic, rime royale, rant, or rap. Grime is a rap form which is particularly British. I don't think we're too familiar with this given that we're more attuned to American rap music. I'm not one to explain grime and how it compares to American rap, but I do find that the former is more melodic. You might want to look up some artists who do grime. Stormzy is one of them, also Skepta and Lady Leisure. You could hear how the rhythm of this poem relates to that of the rap form. Clean-cut iambic refers to a rhythmic pattern of verse lines with unstressed syllables following stressed ones. Iambic pentameter is the most common form of meter or measure in English poetry. Shakespeare, for instance, generally wrote in iambic pentameters. This poem itself, Prologue, is in iambic pentameter. Rime royale or rhyme royal is a stanza pattern made up of 7 decasyllabic lines with a fixed rhyme scheme. This dates back to the Middle Ages in England. So we have all kinds of poetry from all kinds of people fired up by April, and we have a group of them in a Routemaster bus participating in the poetry slam that starts off at the Tabard Inn, which would have been in South London, heading southeast to the cathedral city of Canterbury. So Harry Bailey seems to be cheeky when he says, "May the best poet lose, as the saying goes. May the best poet muse be staying those on the stage, on the page." He's not competing in the poetry slam, mind you. He's the host, but he joins in on the fun, showing off his rhymes and verses. He is confident that April, because they're tight, they're connected, they're the rhyming couplet, April will rescue him, will inspire him should he be at a loss for words, if he gets tongue-tied. And so we're back at the end of the poem, where Harry introduces himself and gets the contest started. So that's Patience Agbabi's prologue. You could read it in itself as a little episode of a character reveling in springtime, engaging in a poetic exercise, flexing his poetry muscles, or just flexing, as you guys say today. But there is much more to it than that. You might have noticed that I overlooked something and someone in my discussion of the poem. That would be the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. The much more in Prologue and the rest of Agbabi's telling tales lies in its relation to that work and that poet from the Middle Ages. And that's what I'll talk about in the second part of this lecture. I'll see you then!